Time being 7 o'clock, I call the Hastings City Council meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, and let the roll reflect that we do have a full quorum, and all council members are present. Tonight we will be reading a proclamation for the Veterans Foreign War Buddy Poppy. Councilmember House, would you please start?
Thank you, Your Honor. Whereas at the end of World War I, the veterans of foreign wars adopted the poppy as a symbol of freedom and the blood sacrificed by troops in war times. Poppies are worn and displayed as a symbolic tribute to our fallen and the future of living veterans and service members. And
whereas the annual distribution of Buddy Poppies by the veterans of foreign wars of the United States has been officially recognized and endorsed by governmental leaders since 1922, and
whereas the Buddy Poppy was registered with the United States Patent Office in February 1924, a certificate was issued on May 20th, 1924, granting the VFW organization all trademark rights in the name of Buddy under the classification of artificial flowers. And
whereas the Buddy Poppy was adopted as the official memorial flower of the veteran of foreign wars of the United States as it remains today, and
whereas the Buddy Poppy program provides financial assistance in maintaining state and national veterans rehabilitation and service programs and partially supports the VFW National Home. And
whereas the basic purpose of the annual distribution of Buddy Poppies by the veterans of foreign wars is uniquely reflected in the desire to honor the dead by helping the living.
Therefore, be it resolved that I, Mayor of the City of Hastings, urge all citizens to recognize the importance of this cause by generously supporting the Buddy Poppy program through their donations on the designated distribution day, and further encourage all patriotic citizens to wear a Buddy Poppy as a symbol of gratitude for the sacrifices made by the men and women who have defended our freedom. Thank you, Council. Anyone here from the VFW? We do have a representative. Mr. Mark Gelhar is here to receive our proclamation for the year.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for all you do.
So Friday, May 15th, Saturday, May 16th will be distribution dates. We'll be at local businesses in front of the stores. These are not for sale. This is donations. If you don't have the means or choose not to make a donation, please take a poppy. We want everybody to have a poppy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Mark, do you want to get a photo? Mark, do you want to get a photo with council? Okay.
I'll take it.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, approval of minutes. Council, were there any corrections to the minutes from the workshop or the regular meeting on April 20th? Councilmember House? No? Okay. All right, thank you. Comments from the audience?
Your Honor,
Yes?
Madam Mayor, as a point of order, I have a concern regarding an item that's been added to the agenda, and I'd like to make 2 comments prior to public comments. Thank you, Your Honor. First, I would like to give Councilmember Beck the opportunity
to speak and explain to the Diaz as well as the members in chamber and people watching as to why this was added to the agenda to have a discussion regarding the city display of the state flag. Councilmember?
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Liefeld. Thank you to everybody who's sitting out there today. I appreciate it. Your voice matters, and that's what this body is for. Thank you. I've been approached by several community members about a concern of possibly going back to the old state flag, the 1983 flag. I said no several times, to the point where it felt like I wasn't doing my job. I felt it was important to bring to the agenda, with the support of the mayor as well, so I feel like she should also have an opportunity to say something. But again, I just want to thank you. I received your emails. I received your phone calls. I appreciate all of your comments. That is my job. There was no intent to make this a political debate tonight, and I'm sorry if it came off that way. There was never an intent. So, Mayor?
Thank you, Councilmember. I will add, as your mayor, my role is not to tell you what to think, but to ensure that every voice in our community has the space to be heard. Some residents feel a deep connection to the historic flag and what it represents about our past. Others believe that change reflects who we are today and the values we want to carry forward. Both viewpoints come from a place of care for our state and its identity. Decisions about the design or adoption of a state flag are made at the state level, not by municipal government. While we respect the importance of this discussion, it is not a city issue to decide. Our focus here at home must remain to be the work that directly impacts our residents, finding solutions for clean, safe drinking water, maintaining infrastructure, supporting public safety, strengthening our local economy, and planning for the future of our community. These priorities require our time, energy, and collaboration. I too support council members back wanting to be on the agenda for you to be able to speak and for us to hear. Councilmember Liefeld?
Thank you, Your Honor. Secondly, I make a motion to amend the agenda to strike item number 2, city display of state flag, from administration reports from city staff. This topic has statutorily been decided by the state of Minnesota, and going against the state is something that we, as nonpartisan elected body, should reserve doing so only when a decision is being made that directly affects the health, the safety, and the well-being of the residents of our great city.
Respectfully, Mayor, second.
Correct. Motion's been made, a second has been made. Council discussion. Councilmember House.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would just like to be clear that it's not just about tradition, it's about how we choose to represent our community today. The old flag reflects a version of history that centers settler expansion while Native people are pushed in the background at a time when they are being displaced in their own lands. The history is real. After the U.S.-Dakota War of 1862, many Dakota people were expelled from Minnesota, expelled into exile, or moved into places like North Dakota. My husband is actually Native American and is from the Spirit Lake Nation Reservation, and his people, his ancestors, were pushed out. So that's why I'm speaking on this today. This is personal for me. Oh, thank you.
Excuse me. Please silence from the audience. If you wish to speak, thank you.
My hand is away from my mouth, ma'am. I promise you. This is personal for me. My husband's family comes from that history. His ancestors were among those pushed out of their homelands in and around Minnesota and forced north. This wasn't just movement, it was loss of land, culture, and a sense of belonging that still carries forward. So when we talk about bringing back that flag, we need to ask, what does it represent and who does it leave out? Supporters may say it's about heritage. Whose heritage are we prioritizing? Are we willing to elevate a symbol that many in our community experience as exclusionary or painful? When we say we want to be an inclusive town, we want people to feel welcome here. Going back to a symbol that is tied to displacement and erasure does not move us forward with that goal. There's also a practical question. What does that actually accomplish? Does it strengthen our community? Does it improve people's lives? Or does it risk creating division over something that doesn't bring real benefit? At the same time, we have to be honest about our priorities. Our council is responsible for addressing issues that directly impact residents' daily lives, things like public safety, water quality, infrastructure, housing, economic development, and community services. Spending time revisiting a flag that does not solve any of these challenges takes focus away from that work and what our community is counting on us to do. We can respect history without recentering its most harmful elements. We can choose to move forward in a way that reflects who we are now and who we want to be. I urge this council not to return to the former flag and instead focus on decisions that bring people together and reflect inclusion, respect, and honesty of our shared past, while keeping our attention on issues that truly matter to our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember House. Any other discussion, council? There is a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion state by saying aye.
Honor, I'd like to call a roll vote.
Sorry?
Roll call vote, please.
Thank you. Clerk? All those in favor of the motion start by saying, oh, I'm sorry, clerk? Berta. Sorry. It's a habit.
Yes.
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 Councilmember Beck.
No.
Mayor Fassbender.
No. The motion prevails. The agenda item will be removed from our agenda. However, we will still take public comments at this point. If you wish to speak to the council, I would like to also remind everyone that the public comment period is not intentional for an extended dialogue. If, in respect of everyone's time, I would allow 2 minutes per conversation, and I ask that the people treat each other with respect, even with perspectives and opinions may differ. Thank you. Who wishes to speak to the council, please step to the podium, state your name and your address.
Mayor.
Councilmember Verichoff.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a quick point here. We make this often when we have a lot of folks that are here for public comment, that it's not within our purview while we are up here like this to actually answer back and forth in a dialogue.
No dialogue.
So if we're just nodding or we're looking at you, we're not trying to be disrespectful. It's just simply we're not supposed to answer while you all are talking to us.
Councilmember Verichoff, thank you. Councilmember Beck. Councilmember Beck? Oh, sorry. Okay. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Yvonne Oberly. I'm the tribal administrator for the Prairie Island Indian Community, and I'm here to read a letter from President Johnson for the record. Dear Mayor Fassbender and City Council members, the Prairie Island Indian Community Tribal Council has been made aware that the City Council is considering whether the City of Hastings should return to flying Minnesota's former straight flag. As you are aware, the prior flag incorporated imagery long criticized by Native nations across Minnesota as degrading and harmful. The old flag and state seal depict a white farmer plowing a field, a generic Native man on a horseback riding away in the background, and a rifle and axe nearby. The depiction echoes painful historical realities for Dakota people. Our people originate from this area now known as Minnesota, and we lived in harmony with this land for countless generations. The old flag is not discreet in boasting about the taking of land for use by settlers, which was followed by mass execution and forced removal of our relatives. In addition to representing our painful history, the old flag reduces Native people in this state to a past era image of recognizing our living communities or our government-to-government relationships. In 2022, Minnesota undertook a formal statewide process that included broad civic engagement While we understand that any one design may not appeal to everyone, a decision to break from the state and fellow local units of government on what state flag to fly has several concerns that we are certain you are considering. Given how close our communities are, it would be troubling and disheartening if Hastings decides to revert to a flag that flaunts the forced marginalization, termination, and removal of Dakota people from the state of Minnesota. Does the council wish to reevaluate this scene as a source of pride? When you are deliberating on this decision, we ask that you consider what your vote says to Native Americans living in the city of Hastings, including Prairie Island Indian community members, and to all Native people and tribal governments in Minnesota. Thank you, Grant Johnson, Tribal Council President.
Thank you for your comments. Sure. Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak at this time?
Well, Peter, Hastings Council, I just thank you, Mayor, and nice to see so many of you. Again, my name is Michael Childs Jr. My Dakota name is Madushka, which means crawfish. I do not speak for the Prairie Island community officially. I am a member of the Prairie Island community. I'm a past Prairie Island council member. So, you know, when I see that depiction on that, you know, I think for me it tells me a story, right? Tells me a story of, I guess, things haven't changed so much in the past 160 plus years, when people are so, I guess they like they want us all to be exiled. Well, guess what? There are 4 Dakota communities, and we weren't exiled. We are here. Maybe you need to be refreshed about the relationship of Hastings and people, my family personally. My grandma Lena, her parents are Thomas Whipple, and these would be my great-great-grandparents, would be Thomas Whipple and Ann Hoffman. You recognize them names because they are still names in this area. Some people are still Dakota descendants. If you understand Alexis Bailey, he also had children with a Dakota woman. So we see the Bailey name around here also, correct? We are not gone. Maybe some people want us to be gone. But, you know, that's about all I wanted to say. Again, thank you for listening to me, and have a good night.
Thank you.
My name is Spencer Johnson. I live at 1106 East 2nd Street. That's Cowtown, in case you're wondering. I taught school here for a long time, and it was my job to try to explain history and let kids decide what their own views are. In terms of the flag, Minnesota did not have an official flag till 1893. And since then, we have changed it, sometimes slightly, 6 different times. Many, many states have changed their flags over the years. In fact, when I did a little bit of homework, only 13 out of the 50 states have not changed their flag since they had an official state flag. It's a very, very common thing to relook at those and try to create an image that is both easily recognizable and reflects the community that the people live in. Our flag that we've chosen now, or that our state representative chose, and we voted for them, the North Star, if you look at the floor of the state capitol, that's what that star looks like. It's symbolic of Minnesota, the night sky, the waters of Minnesota, the North Star. It's blue, which reflects the sky and the water, things like that. I think it's really important that whatever decision we make, and I really appreciate the fact that you guys have made a decision in some sense that
It reflects that Hastings is looking forward and progressing towards the future rather than hanging around and thinking about what was the past. I know change is hard for a lot of people. The old flag, that original image was our state seal with the native person riding into the sunset, basically away from the pioneer, the European-American pioneer. And it represents, of course, it's all in the eye of the beholder, but there are many, many other paintings and images historically that have native people running west because the fact that European-American civilization is moving them out. You can say it's racist, really. It's a perspective, but there's no question what the intention was. In 1858, before that, Captain Seth Eastman was the Army officer that designed that seal, and it was used for a long, long time with some changes. I really believe our state flag now represents the openness of our community. I'm part Irish. The Irish were ostracized when they first came to this country, so were Germans around World War I. A lot of the minorities were, and I think we need to be more inclusive, and I think this flag represents that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jeff McNamara. I live here in Hastings. Thank you for your time and listening to this matter. Between 2000 and 2023, lawmakers introduced 10 separate bills to change the flag. 10 attempts, yet the design remained unchanged for decades. It tells us something important. Minnesotans were not demanding a new flag. It also raises a broader question. Who typically changes a people's flag? Historically, it's been kings, dictators, strongmen, not ordinary citizens. And with all the No Kings protests happening right outside this very building every Saturday, it's clear that Minnesota does not want kings. The selection committee that agreed on the old flag was offensive to Native Americans. But research by Raul Estrada, who himself a Native American from Apple Valley, shows that Minnesota tribes were not consulted and did not express offense. When a committee speaks for a community without asking them, it's patronizing, and it takes away their own agency. Here in Hastings, it's a farming community. The old flag carries a special meaning. It features a farmer, a direct acknowledgement of people who built this state, worked this land, and shaped our local identity. My family has been farming this land for over 100 years. Removing the symbol without broad public involvement feels like erasing part of who we are. I urge you to respect Minnesota heritage and Hastings heritage by flying the 1983 flag. Thank you.
Mr. McNamara, could I have your address, please?
933 West 2nd Street.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you guys hear me okay? All right, very good. My name is Blake Kunsel. I live in Cottage Grove, Minnesota. And first of all, I want to thank the city of Hastings for allowing voices to be heard on this precious subject of our state heritage. We need to be heard. We weren't heard up in the hill. A select few went ahead and adopted a new flag for the entire state, and yet the people did not have an opportunity to vote on this flag that affects everyone. So this is an important part of our history, who we are, but it's also part of our identity as all Minnesotans, right? I want to share something with you. I've learned to appreciate the Indian culture, all the way from the Navajo to the Blackhawk to the Arapaho, from Colorado to the state of Illinois, and now the state of Minnesota. I have never once thought ill of the Indian culture. It's a rich culture filled with religious heritage and spiritual, tremendously spiritual. And I'm grateful to have the Indians represent in our old flag because it shows that they're here and part of our community. The new flag omits that. I look at the old flag as very positive. I don't look at it as racist. I also look at a bond between the farming community, meeting the natives, working together to survive in the land, be it water, cow, corn, all things that are substance to be able to survive. So I just want to say that this flag that we have had is a very positive flag. It's a rich flag. And I also want to again end this note to thank the city of Hastings to allow the voices to be heard. So thank you.
Thank you.
The gentleman here earlier wanted to have a comment, and Mayor and council members. My name is Bill Spinelli. I'm a longtime Hastings resident. I live at 1350 Rosemary Court in town. And obviously, I'm here to speak to just a few minutes about the concept of whether or not we should have the new flag versus the old flag flying over the city of Hastings property. For those who are opposed to the notion, I want to remind you that this only says that the flag should be flown on city property. Your heritage is not being erased. You have more than enough opportunity to fly this flag on your own property and to honor your heritage and your family that I also honor. The new flag honors the Minnesota heritage, both new and old, and it speaks to all of the people of Minnesota, not just to some in our community. I think the other issue I want to bring up, and this one's probably a little bit tender, but I wanted to ask the City Council not to get dragged into political theater. All too often in the campaign years, we find politicians and voices creating culture wars to distract us as voters from the real issues that we're having to attend to. And if you don't have a policy position that you can argue from, or to show that you've had results for that address things such as clean water, access to health care, funding for roads, parks, and trails, then you're going to distract the voters and get them outraged about something that's cultural rather than speak to a policy issue. And I see that's what's happening across the state of Minnesota on this particular issue. And I urge our city council not to be dragged into the political theater of a culture war and pay attention to the things that you addressed both tonight and in the things I've watched in the past, which is what's best for the Hastings safety, life, and the financial and budgetary issues that you confront on a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis in your meetings. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you.
Am I gonna press a button or anything?
I think you're good.
Cool. My name's Noah Spencer. I don't have the great privilege to live in Hastings, but I attend church down here and I spend much of my time down here because it's a beautiful city. And I have a great community down here. Couple of things. First off, the new flag is just ugly. It reminds me of like the corporate flattening of all their logos to be minimalist and simplistic. If we're gonna change it, we could at least chosen something that compartmentalizes our history, what we do, something more meaningful than just two colors and a star. But more importantly, I think the arguments of like historical erasure and whatnot, I think we are erasing our history by getting rid of this flag. And yeah, maybe it depicts things that aren't super beautiful to the modern day context, but does that mean the person who came before the Dakota has a gripe that they can say? What about like the Cheyenne or the Ojibwa or the Arapaho or the Cree? They also push these people off lands. That's just what people do. We're sinful and fallen. Hate to break it to you. So for us to erase our history seems pointless. And it's very clearly divisive against a certain kind of people that have lived in this state for a long time that take pride in the heritage of being a Plains people. I come from California originally. When I came to this state and I see their flag, I'm like, oh, history. I can understand it. And it encourages me to look back and see what happens. My own state of California has the California grizzly bear on the flag. Are we going to get rid of it because the California grizzly's extinct? No. We're also not a republic. We were a republic for like a couple of days. But we kept it because it's our history. And in fact, I looked at it, I'm like, we don't have bears here. What happened? And it encouraged me to actually look into what the California grizzly was. So whatever side of the aisle you stand on, getting rid of this is getting rid of the history that you can either teach on or take pride in, or both. I think it's a simple choice, even though there's not enough intestinal fortitude within the city council to actually take it to measure, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Hi, Miigwech, for having me here tonight, Miigwech, for hearing our voices and the community's voices. My name is Sam St. John. My name is also Makwa Ogichida Ikwe, which means bear warrior woman. My address is 301 3rd Street West, Hastings, Minnesota, and I have lived here for 32 years. So in my experience that growing up in Hastings, I experienced a very small community of other Native children in my grade, not a lot of children of color in my schooling. My brother got bullied for being brown skin. And so for me today, seeing this on the agenda continues to remind me that Native Americans can still be a culture, caricature in society, and that people want to argue and speak on my behalf on how I feel. And I'm going to say that this was already an issue that was decided by our government, by our state, and that the need to argue about why should we do something that's greater for the good of all and still need to oppress people of color. So for me, that I appreciate everybody here today. I appreciate the need for democracy. And by choosing to hear this issue, it also says something, right? By saying something and not saying something, there is still something that's loudly said by this need to bring this up. Because who does this really affect? Yes, there's the political need to this people, divisive, but this continues to divide our community and also specifically send a message to Native women like me who grew up in this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sam Meyer. Are pissed? I live at 2250 Brooklyn, and I figured more women needed to speak than men tonight. I don't know about anybody else here, but I have never thought more about how we fly a state flag than I have in the last 6 months. My husband and I moved here from Inver Grove Heights for a better community, which we got. If you could silence your phone, that would be amazing. So everybody has said what they feel about the old state flag. And I grew up going to Native events with my father, who ended up not being Native once we got our DNA test. But that's a whole different story. But I loved doing all of those things with him and meeting new people and learning new cultures, which is why we travel around the world. And here we are tonight, debating something that has already been decided. It was voted on, we moved forward, we have a new state flag that represents Minnesota. You can fly whatever flag you want in your home. I don't care. I'll know which one to stay away from. And I think the city of Hastings has other things to worry about. Our water, infrastructure, the frickin' e-bikes that are taking over our sidewalks and hurting people. Those are the things that we should be concerned about. Fly your own flag, but I represent the new Minnesota. And I'm proud that we are going to fly the Minnesota state flag. It should not be up for discussion. It was already decided. Everybody needs to move on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Justin Noyle, 1891 Fallbrook Drive. I think there's definitely some inspiring stories here, and sorry that some folks grew up in the environments that they did. And to me, it's not so much a debate on whether or not the old flag needed a redesign. It's more about the process in which this happened. There was a committee that was chosen in silence. Nobody had a voice. This was not voted on. and then it was pushed through. Nobody had a say. This has obviously been very divisive in this community. This community should be brought together. We should feel like we're all part of the community, and there's clearly a large part of Hastings that is not feeling like they're part of the community. So the city council does have a choice to not fly the flag and potentially have a vote on whether or not it gets flown. So I guess that's what I would propose, if that's ever up for proposal, is that we make a decision or make a choice to have a vote on whether or not this flag gets flown, because the state pushed this through a committee. It was not voted on by the people. So that's what I would have to say, and I'm sorry that people find the old design offensive. To me, it's not about the design of the old flag. I'm not saying that a redesign isn't something that might be due. That's not really up for discussion. It's just more about the process that what the current flag went through. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mary Nearing. I live at 58 Three Rivers Drive. I was really hesitant to talk tonight because this is kind of one of those, you definitely fall on one side or the other of the issue. However, I take exception in describing that we did not have a public process. Not having a public process in 1893, when the first flag was made, it was decided by 3 people. If you're not quite aware, Minnesota was a state in 1858, I'm sorry. And they've done, and any commission that is set by the state is set by the legislature, including the one that was made in 1957 and in 1983 and 2023 that was developed, and they had more than 18 months of public comment availability to go through the over 2,000 designs that were submitted that they decided and voted on this last one. It was voted by correctly through a legislative committee. So that I take exception with. I think we've discussed a lot of the other. I do appreciate the council's consideration and decisions on this, and I hope that we can, as a city, we can fly the official flag, and as in everything else, as a citizen of the United States of America, you can fly whichever flippin' flag you want to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jim Hansen, 214 West 3rd Street. Proudly taught with Spencer Johnson for many years. Previous speaker just covered some of the things that there was plenty of public comment. It's not true that there wasn't. Never in the history of the Minnesota state flag story was there a direct vote. It just wasn't there. There is a mechanism, though, to do that. If people are upset with the flag the way it is now, there can be a state ballot initiative. You collect enough signatures and there can be a direct vote on it, and people are free to do that. As far as the flag erasing history, it's just not true. The history happened. We choose to celebrate as a society, though, our history. So the old flag is a snapshot in time. It reflected the current federal forcible removal of the natives to move west. And if you doubt that, Seth Eastman, the designer of the flag, his wife wrote a poem about it, and you can look that up on your own, and it was very clear what the intent was: for white men to take the land and for the native to move all the way to the sea. Now, To have farmers in the flag is a big deal. We've all been beneficiaries from the hardworking Americans that have grown our country. But again, we choose to celebrate things in the past, and I think we can do better than the original state flag. Countries, as Mr. Johnson said many times, and states choose to make changes. The easy example, once the Nazis were defeated, they chose a different path and changed their flag. The Soviet Union, when it fell, they chose a different path and changed their flag. Does that diminish everything, the good work of common people in those societies? No, but they chose a different future. So again, if you don't like the new design, even though it works, right? It's Minnesota. It's our star. It's our land of sky blue waters, right? It's in our Hams commercial. Those of us old enough remember that. So it's there, and thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Is this the right one?
Sure.
Okay. So these are tough times for our nation and our state and Hastings, our community. Many residents, thanks to federal cuts to Medicare and SNAP, are now choosing between food and medicine, maybe taking their medicine every other day because their health care is unaffordable.
Could you please state your name and address?
Oh, sure. Tom Bullington, 1585 Tierney Drive, here in Hastings. Only lived here 22 years.
I know, we know you, but you still have to do the process.
Years. Okay, that's a heartbeat in Hastings. Our drinking water is contaminated, as we all know. Housing, healthcare, and gas are increasingly unaffordable. Our roads need major repairs. Local businesses are struggling, and we have no organized transit in our city. If you live downtown, how do you get to Cub Foods? How do you get food? How do you get to the clinic? It's expensive not to have a car, not to be close to places where you can purchase things. There's no transit here, no transit in or out of the city. Many people in this room, and I know you are, because I am, are working 2 or 3 jobs out there. And I just wanted to mention something about representative democracy. As far as I know, as of 7:45 Central Time, we still live in a representative democracy. That is never really certain with our current president, but we still live in a republic, a representative democracy. And the people that are in our legislature are our elected officials. Our elected officials that all of us elected across the state, both in the Senate and the House, voted to create a commission to discuss the flag. We've talked about the public process that entailed, years of public process, the thousands of suggested flag designs, and we came up with one that's not racist. So we're here tonight discussing a piece of fabric, and I just coincidentally am looking at William Beck's Facebook page, who is married to one of our council members. The city of Hastings will discuss flying the state flag on Monday at 7. This has been made a political theater tonight to benefit a political candidate for State House. Please remove the nonsense about the state flag from the agenda, which it sounds like you have.
Can I stop him?
Get back to the business of governing. It's time for Hastings to have more leadership and less partisanship. Thank you.
My name is Kim Rako, longtime Hastings resident. I am on Ramsey Street, 1008. Mr. Spencer Johnson was one of my teachers in high school. It's really disappointing to be here tonight. I should be at home helping my daughter with her math homework, my daughter that goes to school here. I understand. I'm torn, because I do think that people should have a voice, absolutely. And I also agree with others' comments that that's why we have a representative at the state level. And that is the forum. I'm disappointed that this is happening here tonight because this is not worth your time. I, as a resident, am so upset that you have been manipulated into presenting this. Apparently, we're now on the local news, not just on people's Facebook pages. So, great. Let's just add to it. I thought about a lot of the different sides of the debate, et cetera, and I just came to the conclusion that, it really just comes down to you either feel one way or another, but if you feel strongly about it, please talk to your representatives at the state level. Now, if you want our state or our city to change and fly something for reasons because you think that an old flag that is ugly, by the way, I mean, ask any graphic designer. It is hideous. And it is abjectly representative of manifest destiny pushing people off of land. It is documented, as others have stated. If you want to debate that, I invite you to come down and talk to a whole lot of people that live 15 minutes away from here, and a whole lot of those people's relatives that live in this town, and you will get a much different opinion. When you choose to fly that flag, that is what you are standing for, that you want those people gone, and you think it's just fine. I don't think that's fine. I'm not Native at all. I'm a mutt, mostly Irish. But my neighbors are Native American, my relatives are, and my children are. And when you fly that flag, guess what you're telling them? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, how we doing? I'm Nate Medcraft. I live at 1121 Sibley Street here in Hastings. My biggest problem with the flag, the new one, is it had to be revised. And then the next day, they did it one more time, if you remember correctly. I didn't like the old one very much. I really don't like this one. But why can't we just vote on whether or not we keep it or if we don't? Just put it on the ballot in November. It'll really clear it up for everybody, and it's just easier that way. And that's all I had to really say. And I'm sorry that we disagree on a stupid flag, but realistically, that's where I'm at. So let us vote, please.
Thank you.
Hello, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Lee Stoffel. I live at 1181 Southview Drive. Typically, I'm on the other side of things, not on this side, but this is something that was very important for me to come and talk about today. I'm proud, born and raised in Minnesota, 20-year resident of Hastings, and a proud local governor. Many of you know that. Not all of you. I don't know everyone anymore. I served nearly 8 of my 15 years in local government for the city of Hastings, 2 years for Prairie Island Indian Community, and I really love it. We're at an age where many people have given up hope on government at every level, and I will always defend the impact and the importance of local government in our daily lives. From the quality of the water we drink to our beautiful parks and rec, planned growth and reliable public safety, the responsible use for tax dollars, the work you do and the work we do as city employees matters. With that said, I want to raise concern that we're spending time on this. Not only does I feel like it disrespects our relationship with the state, it also further divides people at a time where we desperately need to focus on what unites us. I've heard 2 main criticisms about the flag. The first is that people didn't get to vote on it. As you all know, not every process in our lives comes down to a vote. In fact, very few processes require a statewide vote. Instead, we vote on representatives who make decisions on our behalf. No decision has 100% agreement, and we've all been on the receiving end of that. Sometimes there's things we like, and sometimes there's things we don't like. It's just the way it works. But I'll remind you that the state did have a very lengthy, open, public engagement process. So I want to just tell you a little story from my own family. At that time, I had a son who was in 7th grade at Hastings Middle School. And he came home, and he's not a talker. Like, I have to pull stuff out of him. You know, how was your day? Fine. You know, and this day he came home and he was so excited to tell me that at the middle school they were learning about vexillology, which is the study of what makes a flag great. And he was telling me all about the principles, what's important. And he's like, Mom, do you know that they're trying to design a new flag for the state? Well, yes, I knew. Okay, great. So we have these family discussions about what makes a good flag. He's at the same time getting to design a flag at middle school, learn all about the history and everything like that. And it was such a fun, it was a fun thing for our family because we would talk about it at the dinner table. And then when the state did narrow down the flags and we all got to vote, you could vote online. And we all did it. It was really fun. In my family, we did it. If you missed that, that's unfortunate. But it was a really fun process. We talked about it. There were different opinions on what we liked, what we didn't like. But in the end, a new flag came. And the flag represents all of us. It represents the water that gives us life, the land that we get to see the fruits of our labor for the farmers, and the changing seasons. That's what unites us as Minnesotans, is we all love living in this state that has all the seasons. It gives us everything we need, and we're lucky to have that. And then the North Star that guides us. So I ask that you please end this divisiveness and focus your time and leadership on the work that actually improves the quality of life for all of the residents of Hastings.
Thank you, Lee.
I never like to follow Lee at city council meetings, but I'll do my best. Good to see you again, Lee. Tony Alonji, 503 Ramsey Street. From the year 2005 to the year 2017, I served as a city council member for Ward 1. The issue before us today, I had a whole bunch of notes which I've left in my chair because all the things I were going to say got covered really well. Thank you so much for doing it, Spencer. I'm so mad. You stole so much of my stuff, Spencer. The one thing that I did want to do, though, that I can still maybe add some value, is to address some remarks to our city council. Because I've been up there, not for this issue, but for some issues that are a little bit similar. When you've got a room that's a little bit more full than usual, on an issue that you don't have full control over, and where emotions are a little high. And thing one, I want to congratulate you on getting it right in one. Before people even started talking, I do agree with the vote that you took. I think I get why the people who voted no voted no. I would like to suggest to you that I would have felt a little bit better if this had been unanimous. I get why it couldn't be, but at the same time, I think that this is an issue where we have to squelch this sort of misunderstanding without airing everything that we disagree on. Yes, still better than social media, but not appropriate, I think, for a city council meeting. I feel even a little awkward being up here now, taking more time of you and your staff, of the other citizens that are here, the other residents that are here. It makes me very self-conscious, and I'm not normally a very self-conscious person. And I'm hopeful that we can avoid this. And I have a little bit of advice, and I'll shift to a topic where maybe that also this council has, and past councils have, entertained things that are beyond. The Israel-Palestine conflict comes to mind. There are other things that came up while I was a city council member that we would entertain and say, gosh, should we vote on this? Should we give a sense of the city council? And it's perilous. And I think if it hasn't been clear in the past why that's perilous, I think it's clear why it's perilous now. So I would like you to remember this moment when the next time somebody brings up whether I agree with where you're going or I don't agree with where you're going. I would suggest that fixing on the city business is the best policy. It really is, and when people do come to you, I'm sorry that Councilmember Beck couldn't be here to see this, perhaps she'll watch the tape. Should folks come to her or any of you in the future and insist that non-city business come before the city, that you refer them privately and consistently, no matter how many times they ask. That will save everybody the most time and energy. If there needs to be some sort of community meeting about this issue because you want the city to air it out, perhaps not an official city council meeting may be the best way to do it, just to have a community meeting, that we can be in this exact same building, have this good exchange. I've heard everybody truly, even those I disagree with deeply, I've heard you be polite. Thank you. And the last thing I want to say are to the descendants of the first people that were here, which is, I'm sorry you have to come here. And that you have to relive this again. And I see the size in the back, just stow it. I think that a little more humility is in order for those that look like me. I think a little humility in listening to those of us who have different perspectives, and going beyond, I'm sorry you feel that way, and taking actual action. I'll take all the time I need, sir. I did when I was on council, and I'll do it here too. Thanks. So that apology is probably insufficient. I get it, but you deserve it nonetheless, and I thank you for being here. I thank everybody for being here and sharing your opinions. Thanks for your time. You're doing a great job, by the way, overall, and I really appreciate all the time you do. It's a hard job. Most people don't get it. Take care.
Nobody was talking when you were talking. Not saying any words.
Order.
Okay, I'll leave. I would just like everyone in the back corner of the room to remain quiet when other people are speaking.
Hi, I'm Kurt Meyer, 2250 Brook Lane. Everyone took the wind out of my sails so far, except I wanted to reinforce what the last gentleman said. I work at a large company. This has been a very challenging environment for us. I work in customer experience, and we've learned some valuable lessons, not the least of which is to just try to focus on our customers and stay out of this stuff. Sometimes people get ticked off because we're silent, but that's both sides, and that probably means you're doing it right. What we've discovered so far is if we just focus consistently on providing good services, our customer satisfaction scores go up. And this isn't really well rehearsed, but the point is, I think that's a good strategy for the city council. What was just said really resonated with me, and it's a lesson I've seen play out. So just consistently stay out of this stuff. It doesn't get you anywhere. I wasn't surprised to see Inver Grove get dragged into it, and I'm glad you didn't. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Madam Mayor, council members, my name is Jacob Solomon from 1114 Ramsey Street. For me, it's not more about politics. This whole flag debate is history, familial identity, state identity, and our sovereignty. The new flag, doesn't show pride or confidence of our state, but a timid conformity with someone else's rules and a desperate plea to be liked. I'm not against reform. The question is, what is worth preserving or conserving, and where do we draw the line? Tradition is our strength of who we are and where we come from. Respect for our forebears, both settler and native, and for the preservation of generations of their wisdom, their learned experiences. Modernity is not always the answer. Antiquity is too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kind of hard wind my way through there. Terry Kennedy, Larry's, 410 East 6th Street. I don't have very much to say, except that I've heard people talk about the history in the flag, and I think sometimes that they get their history wrong. And I just want to let them know that there are remedial history courses that they can take. So, you know, if you want to really hear about who owned this country first and who lived here first, you know, you can go back in time and you can check out who the original inhabitants of this country were. So you want to sit there and talk about preserving our history? You know, take a course.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to the council at this time? Anyone on Zoom? I haven't even asked.
There is an attendee, but at the moment is not raising.
Okay, no raised hands. One more time, anyone wish to speak to the council at this time? Okay, with that, we will close the public comments. I just want to make a comment that you understand that this body is nonpartisan, and we work really hard for this community without bringing any politics into it. I want you to understand when we look at the items that we have to look at for your safety and for the safety of this community, we do not bring any sides that we support in. And that's the way this body has worked. We continue to work, and we will continue to work for the benefit of 23,000 people. Hanging a flag, yes, we took it off the agenda. I and maybe Councilmember Beck wanted to be more heard. We heard you. There's probably not going to be any change. I'm just saying that. We want to be transparent with you, and we will support each other no matter what happens tonight or in our future for the betterment of you. So thank you all for coming. At this point, if you want to leave, you can, or you can stay and you can listen to what we really have items to talk about and that better this community. We'll wait a couple minutes because it might get loud. All right, we'll start without her. Council items to be considered. Anything council? Okay, no items to be considered. Consent agenda. Council, I would accept a motion to approve the consent agenda. Councilmember Leifeld with a second by Councilmember Lawrence. Any discussion, council? All those in favor of the motion of the consent agenda, state by saying aye. 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 Opposed to that motion, state by saying nay. All right, and that motion prevails. Tonight, under awarding of contracts, we have a resolution for an issuance of sale of GO Charter Bonds, Series 2026A. And for this item, we have an introduction by our finance manager, Chris Idemiller, and Tammy Ondale of Northland. Okay, you're both here. All right. Welcome.
Well, I don't have a lot to add here other than we've worked now for several years with Northland on financing of these bonds that we do every year, usually for a street project, sometimes with something in addition to a street project. So this year, we have a few things that we're including. Well number 9, to expand the capacity of our water system along with the annual street project, and some money for utility work when Highway 61 gets underway. So with that, Tammy?
Thank you, Chris, and welcome, Tammy.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. Tammy Umdahl with Northland Securities, here to present the results of the sale. As Chris noted, the city did call for the sale of bonds to finance street and utility improvements. On behalf of the city this morning, Northland took bids for underwriters to purchase those bonds. But before I get to the results, I just want to note that as part of the process, Northland did recommend that the city seek a bond rating from S&P on these bonds and the city's outstanding bonds, and that the city's rating of AA+ was affirmed by S&P. I would note of the approximately 345 cities that S&P in Minnesota rates, about 15% of those cities have that AA+ rating, and that made a difference in the sale this morning. There were 7 bids received on behalf of the city. The low bid was from TD Financial Products, LLC, out in New York City. And I would note that their bid did include a premium bid, so the final par amount, which is the principal of the bonds to be issued, is $6,400,000. That reflects the use of that premium to reduce the amount of bonds to be issued, because the premium is available to the city to finance those project costs. And the other reason for the reduction in the par amount is the underwriter, the low bid, worked for less. So we evaluate that based upon something called true interest cost, which takes into account their purchase offer. So the final true interest cost is at 3.13%. And I would just note the last issuance that the city did was at about 3.45. Chris and I were talking about that prior. I would also note that when the finance plan in April, based upon then current rates, we thought it was going to be closer to that 3.4%. So 7 bids, great results for the city. It would be my recommendation that the city council move to approve and adopt the resolution awarding the bonds in the amount of $6,400,000 to TD Financial Products. And as you've heard before when we're at the podium, the reason your agenda and the packet for the viewing public had a different amount, and that was the correct amount of $6,985,000. That was before we took bids and before the reduction of the premium. So the correct amount is $6,400,000. With that, Madam Mayor, Council, I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have for me.
Great news, Tammy. Thank you for your work. Council, any questions? Councilmember House?
No questions, but I would just like to move forward with the resolution to issue sale of general obligation bonds to TD Bank in the count of $604 million.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember House. The second by Councilmember Pemble. Any discussion, council? All those in favor of the motion state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed to that motion state by saying nay. And that motion prevails. Thank you, Tammy. Tonight, we also have to accept and propose the authorization work for professional services for well number 9. And for this item, we have our Public Works Director, Ryan Stemski. Ryan, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council members. Tonight, yes, our first item in Public Works is well number 9. Well number 9 has been in our 2040 Comprehensive Water Plan to be constructed in 26-27. So this has been in our plan in Public Works to meet the water demands of our system. The location of well number 9 has been identified probably over 10 years ago. We did investigations. We evaluated production of aquifer, and we determined Wallen Park was the location of well number 9. We have since monitored with the DNR the groundwater elevation to confirm the adequacy of this well. So this is the well that's been next up in our water system. Our location has been identified and studied. The next step is to fit this well in context of the park that it's planned to be in. And so in the proposal in your packets tonight, there's engineering services for designing the well, but there's also architectural services to produce some renderings of this well house such that it would fit in context of the neighborhood. So this is looking at design standards within the neighborhood that it would be stood up in. This is looking at other creative ideas to fit this well house. The plan would be to bring in June-ish some renderings that our public can see and that our city council can see and give feedback to public works staff on what fits for that neighborhood. Then we know what we're gonna build. And from there, we would put together geotechnical services in the bid. We would put together a design. We would put together agency approvals to move forward with the project. This type of a project, a well house project, splits off into 2 bid packages. One is for the actual well itself. So well drillers come in and would bid on the 400 plus feet of a well drill that we'd have to develop. So that work would be ready for bid probably in the fall of this year. We would get on a well driller schedule for late in the year or early 2027. Their schedules are filling up as we speak, and so that would be the plan, is to actually construct the well in 2027. The second bid package would be the well house itself. This is the structure that encases the well. There's a standby generator so that if power goes out, we don't lose the production of the well. And then the landscaping and the berming around to fit the well in context. And so that bid package would happen probably towards the end of the year, and we would time out that construction with once the well got developed in 2027, got it to get the well in the ground first, and then we'd build the structure around it. So with that, the total engineering services and architectural services that I described is in your packets at a not to exceed $165,892. Our 2026 budget is $1.7 million for the total project cost of completing of well number 9. With that, I'll pause for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. Councilmember House.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ryan, can you tell me a little bit about how surrounding neighborhoods or residents would be able to find out once the process moves forward more in Wallen Park area?
Thank you, Councilmember House. I think this is what I was getting at. Once I get my architectural team on board, we'll get some renderings going. We'll find some dates, work with our team here, find a location, and we will put that out on social media. We'll put that out on our website. We will do mailings direct to the neighborhood. All of our classic ways for touching folks to make sure they're informed and so they can see the progress, see the schedule, see the options and what we're thinking, and then get that feedback.
Thank you so much for that, Ryan. I really appreciate it. I would also like to make a motion to authorize the city to enter in a contract with WSMB for the purpose of utilizing the professional services for the city, with the city to design and bidding of well number 9.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember House.
I'll second that, Your Honor.
Councilmember Liefeld will have a second, and we have some questions. Councilmember
Hey, Ryan,
Lawrence.
thank you. One thing I just want to say out to everybody, this is not a water treatment plant.
We went through that about a year ago, and I just want to let everybody know in that neighborhood, it is not a water treatment plant. It is a well to get water out of the ground. It is not a treatment plant.
So it's not a treatment plant?
I don't need the phone calls. I don't need it. If you want to call, go ahead, but again, not. Second question, what is the size? I know it's early on, but like, what is the typical well house footprint?
This one, we still have to do some evaluation with the Department of Health. The chemical treatment, meaning chlorine and fluoride that we have to put in through state mandate, that would get its treatment up at the future Western Water Treatment Plant, not in Wallen Park. But, so we can make this smaller. So this is where some of the creativity comes into play. We don't have to build those chem rooms that are traditional or what you see in our other well houses in the city. So we can take off some square footage that way. Little garage size, a little larger than a garage size, if you want to get a visual. But this is what our team, we're trying to challenge them to look at how we package this together and make it look and fit in the neighborhood. But it'll be one of our smallest well houses in the city.
Thank you, Councilmember Lawrence. Did we have another question? No? Okay. There is a motion and a second. All those in favor of the motion state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed to that motion state by saying nay. And that motion prevails. Thank you, Ryan. And we have another little treatment plant coming up, but we will first listen to our Director, John Hinsman, from our Community Development, and he will be talking about a resolution for a site plan for the Eastern Water Treatment Plant at 850 Spiral Boulevard.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council members. Ryan and I will both be presenting items related to the same facility, which is the Eastern Treatment Plant. And as the council knows, under our obligations for water treatment, this is the second plant that we're building in the city. My responsibility in this is the site plan review, which I'll go through tonight. This is a site within the Hastings Industrial Park, 850 Spiral Boulevard, as shown here. An existing well house is located on the property. It is zoned industrial, surrounded by industrial land, but for a small area south of 31st Street that is residential. This area is about 300 feet more back from the structure itself. The structure itself, the property looks something like this today. And the treatment plant would be built on the property here. Would be more towards the front of the property. Here's the existing well house. Here is the treatment facility. It's of similar size as the one that is under construction on North Frontage Road as we speak, about 10,000 or more square feet. We did have the Planning Commission review the site plan at their last meeting on April 27th. They did recommend approval of this unanimously with limited discussion. They did have some discussion related to some of the project management, time of the project, existing driveway, and well house. But those questions were answered at the meeting itself. So not a very high trafficked area, not a lot of traffic going in and out of this facility, but certainly a necessary piece of infrastructure itself. Trying to keep most of the development here towards the industrial park with that back corner adjacent to 31st Street being pretty much left as it is. So I can stand for any questions that you may have on this. This is a resolution that we're asking for action on tonight, and I can stand for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Council, any questions? Councilmember Liefeld.
Thanks, John. And John, I'm sorry if I didn't hear you say, when do we anticipate that we'll be breaking ground to start on this particular facility?
I would ask the expert on this one. What do you think?
That's in your next presentation. But,
Yeah.
Let me not get ahead of things.
Okay.
You know how I love your presentations.
August.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, John. Sure. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, Councilmember Liefeld. Councilmember Verichoff.
Thank you, Your Honor. John, I love this landscape plan. Any trees that we're losing, we're getting back, and I even see a +1 tree. Really like that. Can you just reiterate for the people that we have here, which is a lot more than we ever have, because it's usually just us and you, John, how close is the nearest house to this?
Closest house is about 300 feet to the south here. So if you go back to, well, look at this prop, you can see it over here on the other side of 31st Street on that plan, about 300 feet back.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Verichoff. Council? Okay, no other questions? Site plan? All right.
I'll make a motion.
Councilmember
To move
House, thank
forward.
you.
With the site plan.
Okay.
I'd like to move forward with the proposed plan requested for the Eastern Water Treatment Plant for PFAS removal at 850 Spiral Boulevard.
Thank you, Councilmember House and Councilmember Verichoff for the second. Any discussion, council? No discussion? All those in favor of the motion state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed to that motion state by saying nay. And that motion prevails.
Thank you.
Now we will hear from Ryan again about the plans and specifications. Welcome back, Ryan.
Thank you. Yeah, John gets to do all the fun stuff. No, just kidding. Yeah, so my portion of the presentation, this is the getting to the authorization, well, the resolution in your packet that authorizes approval of the plans and the specifications of the project. So here's our latest rendering of the Eastern Water Treatment Plant. A lot of similarities. We call it a cousin to our Central Water Treatment Plant. A lot of the same elements in the architectural feel is brought into this one. So when you look at our 3 treatment plants someday, you'll see similarities. You'll know that's a PFAS treatment plant in Hastings. But it will look different with some of the translucent lighting and other elements in here. So just to kind of bring us back to that very point of the decentralized system, we are not mitigated from PFAS here in Hastings until we have all 3 treatment plants up and operating. And that is because all 6 of our wells in our future well that we just approved for construction, all will have PFAS in them to levels that need mitigation. And so we can't be fully mitigated, like I said, until all systems are having these removal processes. The plan we see here, currently the Central Water Treatment Plant in the center of the page off 55 is currently in construction. Hopefully walls will be up in June, so it'll start looking like a building very soon. So I'll be getting pictures when we get to that point. Our Western Treatment Plant is still site to be finalized and determined. So we are working on that as we speak. Obviously, this is not the right location. This was from our original feasibility study. We've moved that over to the C's property is what we're currently in discussions with. And so that's west of General Stephen Drive. So just want to point that out. And then what we're here to talk about tonight is the Eastern Water Treatment Plant, and that's over off Spiral Boulevard, as John described, near Commerce Drive, so in our industrial park. John did a good job of zooming in on the same site plan. We can see in the plan itself, this is our location for well number 6. So we already have a raw water main connected nearly the whole way from well 8 north of us to just up at Commerce. And so we have a little water main work to do, but then both wells will be connected for treatment at this site. Our PFOA range is ranging from 6 to 20 parts per trillion, and at the MCL level of 4 parts per trillion, we know we need treatment. So that's where the numbers are there. Our nitrates have ranged recently from 8 to 10 parts per million, and the MCL is at 10 parts per million. So we're in that elevated range. We come up and we come down seasonally with nitrates, but we're in that upper range for nitrates for wells 6 and 8. On the south end, I don't know if John mentioned this, we do have our water treatment. That's an infiltration basin back there. So that's what you might be wondering what that is. That's capturing our roof drain and recharging that into the groundwater. And then we have our circle driveway here to get semi-trucks into our facility to remove the spent media. We pull the semi-trucks into the site. They can back up into the treatment plant without having to do those movements out on Spiral. So that was important to us in operations. Zooming in on the floor plan itself. So once we get inside the plant, this is where I was talking about backing up. Here's our truck bay right down the middle. That's actually a floor drain, the darker section there. But that's our truck bay. On the backside of the treatment plant, we've got our granular activated carbon vessels. And so this is our single pass treatment system. That kind of means what we've talked about before. The PFAS chemicals adsorb to the media in these vessels, and those get spent someday. Eventually, all those void spaces will get filled. Semi-truck needs to come in probably about once a year, or a little bit more than that if our calculations go to scale. But we suck all that spent media out. We put fresh, new granular activated carbon in, and then we send that material out to get incinerated at high temperatures. And so that's the single pass system that we have on the PFAS. On the west side of the building, you'll kind of see our setup for nitrate removal. We have ion exchange vessels here on the rear west side of the building. And then we have 2 brine tanks up at the north side of the building on the west there. That's a very similar setup to our ion exchange treatment plant now that we have in play. So it's actually the same setup. And we can regenerate and reuse the media in there. So that's the nice thing about the ion exchange. We don't have to take it out and have a truck bay for it, for example. We can actually just keep regenerating that. We get years and years of uses out of that media that we purchase for the ion exchange. So those are the 2 treatment systems that we have in this facility. Here's a west view. You can kind of see some of the translucent lighting on the building exterior. This is well 6 in the foreground, kind of matching. We have to get in there and connect up the facility. So as we do that, it gets a facelift to have the same look and feel as the treatment plant. And I think those are the key elements to point out. Here's kind of a 3D rendering of once we get inside the building. This is kind of a top view looking down at that truck bay. And you can, these are those 10-foot diameter PFAS removal vessels that you're seeing here. And then over on the west side there, you see the shorter, smaller ion exchange or nitrate removal vessels. Some of the components in the front, those are some pre-filters. We kind of take all the sand and media and dirt and debris out of that might be in our water, and that gives our media life of our granular activated carbon longer life. We're trying to get maximum life out of that so we can use as much of that purchased media for as long as we can. And then here's a rendering. This is kind of right next to that vessel gallery is what we call it. But this is where we do all of our testing of the water. So we've got a lab right there. We do our testing, our MDH required testing. We'll have a little office space in there for our operators to do their checks on a daily basis. But that gives you an example of what a treatment plant looks like on the inside. So the total project cost for this facility is the $22.3 million, including the design and soft costs, plus the construction costs. Of that total project cost, we've already got a $1 million MPCA planning and design grant. We've talked about that on the first treatment plant. And then we anticipate getting a $5 million emerging contaminants grant again. That's out of the PFA loan and grant system. And we received this $5 million last year for the central treatment plant. Our eastern treatment plant is actually #1 on the state's project priority list. So we're already in process of filling out our application for this. Those are the 2 known funding sources that we have to date. Then we do have a state bonding request in as well, waiting for session to play out on that front. Okay, the nitrate treatment system. So we did go to our operations committee and talk through these elements of our eastern water treatment plant. One thing we talked about at that meeting is a discussion of breaking out the treatment system's costs. So we had talked about including the footprint of the building, like I just showed you, that has both the PFAS and the nitrate removal in it. We do have an elevated nitrate level, and we're on a watch list and a testing program with the Department of Health. So That's kind of why the nitrate treatment system is built into this treatment plant. But on the breakout side of things, when we looked at the operating systems, the vessels, the piping, and those elements of the nitrate treatment, it's about a $2.4 million cost of the project. So pulling that and looking at that specifically, that's the nitrate systems cost for this particular facility. Not the building footprint and everything else, just the system that actually removes the nitrates within the building. So if we did that, just playing out that scenario, and we installed it at a later date, if we brought those components back in, let's say when we're consistently over 10 parts per million, and we're mandated to put it in, if we did that at a later date, we estimate about an additional $500,000 to do that. And really that cost is to address some catwalk and piping that would be in the way that we'd have to move out of the way. And then we'd have to knock out that translucent wall you saw on the side panel. So the translucent wall, it's designed in such a way that we can take it out for a lower cost than a brick building, because we have to have a way to get these vessels in and out someday, right? If there's a crack in them or something's wrong, we think it's actually a pretty creative design to be able to pull these vessels out without having to crane them off the roof or do something else. But you saw in there all the piping and all the manifolds. You can't get these large vessels in and out. So you have to think strategically in these buildings to not paint yourself in a corner per se. So we do have those translucent walls that are easier to take out. And so part of this $500,000 is the removal and the replacement of getting everything back in place if we did this later. Definitely something we can do with a little added cost. The recommendation from Public Works is, in our operation, is to install it now, but we totally understand the financial position we're in as a city. We understand the costs of these facilities, and so that's why we have these discussions, and we want to break out the facts for council's decision. Our thought at this point was to do an add alternate, so an additional alternate in the bid package, and that would split out those nitrate components, and we would get pricing on that in the bidding process. And then once we receive those bids back, we'll hopefully have more information on the finances, right? Session will be done May 18th, hopefully. But if session's done, we'll know whether we got some bonding money or not, right? We'll have a little more facts. I'll share the schedule with you next, but we'd have a little time to learn more information, and then council would make a decision upon contract award to the contractor, whether we include those nitrate systems in or whether we leave them out. And that would really be at no detriment to the bid process. That's a common practice that we use in engineering, that we can either add that component in or we take it out. Contractor doesn't care. We just have to be clear at the time of contract award. So the proposed schedule, back to, long way to get to Councilmember Layfield's question. But the proposed schedule is, tonight we're here for the plan and spec approval that allows us to move forward in the process and obtain bids. We have already started the PFA loan and grant application that I referenced earlier. One catch there is we remember from our experience last year is the PFA program requires that you have as bids in hand. So it's important that we go get those bids and show them factual numbers before they approve a final loan and grant amount. They're not going to do that without the as bid information. So that's why this is an important step tonight. In August is when we anticipate that city council award and having that financing package available at that time. That would push our construction closer to September, and that's a very similar date to when we started the plant today. We got excellent bids last year, and so my motto is if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? We try to align. They were able to get foundational work in, piping work in, and then they could put some crews on some of the interior work that they could get done over the winter, and that worked very well. Our contractor loved it, so we're going with the same timing because it saved us millions last year in bid packaging. So these treatment plants take a long time to build. You heard me say 18 months in the past. This would get us to start up in February of 2028 with final completion in May of 2028. And I think, yep, that's all I have.
Great.
Any questions?
Thanks, Ryan. Great introduction. Councilmember Liefeld.
Thanks, Your Honor. Ryan, so question, when you gave us that, I know these are estimates, 22.3 million for this eastern plant, did that number include the 2.4 million for the nitrates? Or are we,
Yes.
okay.
Correct.
So the first number you gave us, you were already calculating in if we went ahead and did both.
Correct.
Now, as a reminder, on the current central treatment plant, we are just building the facility to house it, but we are not putting in the nitrate treatment plant yet in the central because we're not on the watch list at that spot. Is that correct?
That's correct. We have nitrate treatment next door. So wells 3 and 5 are getting a bypass treatment system. We'll talk about that later.
Thank
And well 7 doesn't have any nitrate treatment, but that's at a level of 5 or 6 parts per million. So we felt that that's not elevated to the degree to put in those systems now. So our discussion was, I think in a workshop, talked about options about building the building now or not. And then we decided to remove, council direction was to remove those nitrate systems, and operations agreed with that, with that particular choice. Yes.
Thank you, and I don't want to take any wind out of Mr. Watich's presentation later, but just to remind people that the city has gone on to contract with PAWA to move forward with litigation against 3M. Please explain. I just want the public to hear, there's a lot of talk.
We have contracted with Powwa Law Group for potential litigation against one or more defendants. We have not made a decision on a lawsuit or a defendant at this point.
Thank you, Dan. And for that, people wondering what that question was for, we're seeing a lot of things on social media of, well, why didn't the city go after 3M? We're trying. They're a very big company. But just so as you were giving us some great numbers about some possible funding that we're already working on and securing, we're continuing to seek more funding. Thanks, Ryan. Again, we know way too much about water, so I want to thank you for that. I'm a lot of fun at a party, so thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Liefeld. Councilmember Beck.
Hey, Ryan. I just want to say I appreciate you listening to Councilmember Pemmel and I at the Operations Committee about possible, instead of doing the nitrates all in one, as having an additional bid. I just wanted to thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Councilmember Beck.
Make a motion?
Councilmember Liefeld makes a motion, and a second by Councilmember Liefeld. New discussion, Lawrence. New discussion, council. All those in favor of the motion state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed to that motion state by saying nay. And that motion prevails as well. Ryan, thanks for all the work that we are doing and continuing to do.
Thank you.
For safe drinking water. Well, more PFAS update with our city administrator, Dan Waticha, as he does every month, the first of the month, we get an update. Dan, you're on.
Because we can never know enough about water.
We never know enough, yes.
A few updates over the past month, as well as a little bit looking ahead. On the construction end, on the central treatment plant, A1 Excavating has essentially completed their installation of the raw water main. In the coming weeks, they will be doing paving on the streets that were disrupted and beginning site cleanup. So that piece is all but done. On the treatment plant itself, Magni Construction presently continues forming and pouring footings and underslab pouring or underslab plumbing and conduit late April into early May, so presently. And grading and forming the slab is scheduled for mid-May. As our Public Works Director indicated, we're expecting the tip-up walls in June. So it'll be much more visible what's going on there. Stepping aside from the central treatment plant's construction, on April 23rd, we met with a number of key legislators up in St. Paul to advocate for our state bonding request, and also talked about the possibility of increasing the cap on the emerging contaminants grant. This is not new. This is something we have had ongoing for the past 2-3 years, but it's critically important. We have received over, from several different sources, grants, as well as some of the state's funding through the East Metro 3M settlement, over $23 million towards this project, and it's still painfully expensive. It's just awful. If we get nothing more, we're still looking at a 150% increase in water rates, and right now we're around 33%. So we're not even a portion of the way there. And that's why we're looking at every option for funding. And really appreciate people's engagement tonight. I absolutely encourage you to reach out to your state legislators, both Senator Seeberger and Representative DePel. We have their support, but we need them to keep a good, tough spine and continue that support. We want them, when talking with their caucuses, to say, our town is screaming, we need this help. So please reach out to them. Your voice does matter. Mentioned the difficulties, financial difficulties with the water rate increases. Later this month and into June, the City Council will be discussing the potential for another increase, presently calculated at 10%, July 1. That actually will have first reading on our next meeting on the 18th. Hopefully there's time for the meeting on June 1st to change it, but it's moving ahead. The biggest thing that would make a difference on that, there's a couple options, but the biggest thing that would make a difference on that is getting additional funding now from the state of Minnesota, whether that is a state bonding bill or increasing the cap on the emerging contaminants grant. That can make a difference on water rates today. The other pieces to note, I guess, are the last few minutes here. Earlier this evening, Council approved the site plan, plans and specifications, and putting out for bid the Eastern Treatment Plant. Note the importance of the nitrates treatment being an alternate bid, and although I think our Public Works Director explained it well, the point to that is, although we're right up near the limit on that, it is a place that we could scrimp and avoid a little bit of a increase in water rates until we have to. We know it's inevitable, but it may mean it's a few years later, a bit more expensive, but that's some of the trade-offs that Council will be discussing over the next couple of weeks, as well as we get into planning our upcoming budget. And then, as Councilmember Liefeld pointed out, a couple of weeks ago, April 20th, the council hired Powwow Law Group, a litigation and trial firm, for potential lawsuits against one or more defendants. I think that's an important step. It is not an immediate resolution. Litigation could easily be several years before a resolution. So water rates, unless we get additional funding, we'll continue looking for grants and such as we have, but water rates will be continuing to increase unless we can get state assistance right now. The litigation, I think, will be an important step that we'll be talking about in the coming months, but it's not an immediate solution. It's a long-term run. But with that, Council, I can stand for any questions. Thank you.
Council, any questions? All right, thank you, Dan. As always, like I said, the first meeting of the month, Dan gives us an update. Council, any announcements? Okay, I do have a couple. We recognize May as Historic Preservation Month and National Building Safety Month, and this week is Professional Municipal Clerks Week. We thank the staff. Kelly and Emily. Yes, we thank the staff, commissioners, and volunteers in those areas to important services to our community. We also recognize next week as Police Week. Please join us for Coffee with a Cop, Froth and Cork on May 8th, Police Week Open House on May 12th, and Cop on a Rooftop supporting Special Olympics at Dunkin' Donuts on May 15th. Hastings Area Historical Society will host free tours of the historic City Hall building on Sunday, May 17th. Please come to the 4th Street entrance. Meetings forward in the month. Monday, May 11th, 7 p.m., we have a Finance Committee meeting. 7 p.m., we have a Planning Commission meeting. Wednesday, May 13th, 6 p.m., we have a Arts and Culture Commission. Thursday, May 14th, 6:30 p.m., we have a HEDRA meeting. And Monday, May 18th, 7 p.m., council, we have a council meeting. Any motion to adjourn? Councilmember Pemble with a second with Councilmember Lawrence. All those in favor of the motion state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed to that motion state by saying nay. We are adjourned.